No.
Unalasot undao verzihi nefribit communi!
Paul Atreides, the leader of Arrakis, has started awakening his darker side. We've seen hints of it already, and in the next movie, we'll see him fully embrace that inner dark side, kind of like his own version of a Darth Lord. Following the success of Dune Part 2, which earned critical praise with an IMDb rating of 8.5 out of 10, making it the highest-rated movie of 2024, and $714 million at the box office, Warner Brothers and Legendary are moving forward with the adaptation of Dune Messiah, the sequel to Dune. Denis Villeneuve has made it clear that he doesn't plan to extend the series beyond 3 films, meaning that Dune Messiah will likely serve as the final chapter. So, what's coming up next? What should you expect from this dark awakening of the Arrakis leader? What's Dune Messiah all about, and why is it such a key part of Paul's story? And why does it seem like Villeneuve isn't sticking to a straight-up adaptation of Messiah? And how does Zendaya's Chani fit into all of this chaos? We'll talk about it all and more, so stick around till the end. Now, much like in the original novel, Dune Part 2 ends with Paul taking the Imperial throne and marrying Princess Irulan. Not all the great houses of the Landsraad are ready to accept Paul as emperor, but that's where his huge army of loyal Fremen comes in. While Paul fears the holy war he's about to set off, his Parisian visions tell him it's the best way to ensure humanity's survival in the long run. Dune Messiah picks up about 12 years after Dune, in a time when that holy war has already cost over 60 billion lives. Paul now rules the Imperium from his throne on Arrakis, and the weight of that power is starting to take its toll. His spice-powered abilities have only gotten stronger, and he's constantly haunted by visions of possible futures, making it harder for him to make decisions or feel like he has any free will, since he can see the inevitable outcome of every choice. Paul feels the crushing weight of the devastation caused by his holy war, having lost full control of his fanatical Fremen army. But his Parisian visions also show him that this war might not be the worst thing for humanity. His goal is to guide humanity to thrive instead of falling into decay, and this mission, known as the Golden Path, becomes a burden he struggles to bear. By the time of Dune Messiah, Paul's sister Alia has hit puberty. At this point, she becomes a religious icon on Arrakis, with many Fremen seeing her as Saint Alia of the Knife. She's focused on uncovering the growing conspiracy against her brother while also looking for a mate, though not necessarily in that order. In the original Dune novel, Alia appears as a 2-year-old, but Villeneuve changed things so that she's not born yet in Dune Part 2. Instead, she's shown only through Paul's visions, played by Anya Taylor-Joy. She'll likely return in Dune Part 3, but this time as a fully grown adult rather than a teenager. This shift also means the next movie will probably be set more than 12 years after Part 2, which makes sense considering some of the more sexually charged scenes involving Alia in Dune Messiah. Anyway, shifting our focus to the conspiracy against Paul Atreides. Although Paul is the emperor in Dune Messiah, not everyone is happy about his rule. Some Fremen start to question their liaison al-Gaib, with a group meeting on Arrakis early in the book to plot against him. They're nostalgic for the old ways of life, and the exposure to vast amounts of water on other planets isn't helping their discontent. It's not just the Fremen who are against Paul. The book introduces a secret group that includes members of the Bene Gesserit, like Charlotte Rampling's Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohayam and Florence Pugh's Princess Irulan, the Spacing Guild, and the xenophobic Tlaxu, the guild navigators, who are so altered by spice that they can manipulate time and space, help this group cloak their actions against Paul's Parisians. But Paul knows more about these plots than he lets on. For instance, he's aware that Irulan is secretly poisoning Chani with contraceptives. Although Paul won't consummate his marriage to Irulan, he still wants a child with Chani, who remains his devoted concubine. This might change in the movie. Paul lets Irulan continue sabotaging Chani because his visions show that Chani's pregnancy will lead to her death, and he can only delay the inevitable, unable to change the future. Another thing to expect in the next movie is the return of Jason Momoa's Duncan, Idaho. Long before Game of Thrones gave us the Red Wedding, Dune had its own shocking betrayal and massacre when House Atreides is betrayed by the Harkonnens and their Sardaukar allies. Several key characters, including the skilled swordsman Duncan Idaho, are killed off. But one thing that stands out in the Dune series is that death doesn't always keep characters down. For example, in Dune Messiah, Duncan Idaho makes a surprise return. Think of him as Dune's version of Game of Thrones' Lady Stoneheart. The Tlaxu bring him back as a Gola, an artificial clone with silver eyes, implanted with the memories of the original Duncan. This new version of Duncan goes by the name Hate. The Tlaxu gift him to Paul, but even without his Parisian visions, Paul can tell right away that Hate isn't someone to trust. From the start, Hate's presence causes problems for Paul with the Fremen. While they held the original Duncan in high esteem, they see Golas as unnatural copies, which damages Paul's reputation. Hate is also tasked with seducing Alia, creating a lot of sexual tension between the two, an element that will likely be handled differently in the movie considering Alia's older portrayal. But among all this, how does Zendaya's Chani fit in? Even though Dune Part 3 is still a long way off, we already know it won't be a straight adaptation of Dune Messiah. That's because Part 2 leaves things with one key character in a very different spot. In Messiah, Chani is Paul's loyal concubine, totally devoted to him and eager to have a child to secure House Atreides' claim to the throne. But in Dune Part 2, Chani pulls away from Paul. She's upset by his plan to marry into the throne and decides to go back to the deserts of Arrakis. It's clear that Villeneuve isn't planning to keep Zendaya's character as Paul's unwavering companion in the next film. That said, Chani won't just disappear. She'll likely take on a very different role in Part 3. We could see her become the leader of Fremen who oppose Paul's holy war. She's not the only one disappointed in Paul's messianic ways, and we might see her leading resistance movements against House Atreides' spice operations, just like she did against the Harkonnens before. On the flip side, Irulan might have a less villainous role in Part 3. Part 2 hints that she's sympathetic to Paul, which could suggest a shift in the direction of the story. Will she still be part of the plot against the Emperor? Will Paul still refuse to have children with her? And what about the romance between Paul and Chani? Is it over, or will they reconnect in Part 3? Is Paul still haunted by visions of Chani's death? If the movie follows the general plot of Dune Messiah, Chani will eventually get pregnant. Maybe her love for Paul will eventually outweigh her commitment to the traditional Fremen lifestyle. And now finally, when should you expect the movie itself? While Warner Brothers and Legendary Pictures have yet to officially confirm that Dune Messiah will be Denis Villeneuve's next film, all signs point to it following the massive success of Dune Part 2. In late June 2024, the studio set a December 18, 2026 release date for Villeneuve's next event film, likely set for IMAX screens. While it's not confirmed that Dune Messiah will be that film, with other projects like Nuclear War, Cleopatra, and Rendezvous with Rama also on Villeneuve's plate, it's clear that work on the Messiah script is underway. Despite some conflicting reports on the production schedule, the current plan appears to target a summer 2025 start for filming. However, if there are script or scheduling delays, it could push the film's release to later in 2026. If everything goes as planned and Dune Messiah is Villeneuve's next movie, it's expected to hit theaters on December 18, 2026. Well, that's it for today. Let us know what you think in the comments section. And don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this and other exciting upcoming movies. We'll see you next time.